The next section in the architecture document is the requirements section. This is also a short section, usually no more than 1 page, usually less, and its target audience is all the team and management members. In this section, we are going to describe the various requirements from the system. Now, as you probably remember from previous sections, there are two types of requirements: functional requirements that describe what the system should do, and non-functional requirements that describe what should the system deal with. Just a quick reminder, non-functional requirements specifies the required performance, expected load and data volume, SLA, and more. Note that as opposed to functional requirements, these requirements do not describe what the system should do, but rather what is the environment the system is expected to work in and with what it is expected to deal. The requirements section in the architecture document describes briefly both types of requirements. Note that this section should be brief, and the requirements should be listed in a bulleted list no more than 3 lines per requirement. Now, you might be asking yourself and me, why do we need this section? After all, similar to the background section, the team is well aware of the requirement and should it be reminded of them? Well, that's a very good question, and let's try to answer it. There are 2 important reasons for including the requirements in the architecture document. First, similar to the background section, this section is included in the document to allow the readers to comment on the requirements and to make sure everyone is well aware of what the system should do and under what conditions it's supposed to work. This is a great opportunity for you to validate your understanding of the system and make sure that whatever you design solves an actual problem for the customer. Second, remember that the architecture is designed against a well-defined requirement. A lot of the architecture characteristics, such as redundancy, messaging, data storage, and more, are designed in light of a specific requirement. For example, if there is a non-functional requirement that a message should never be lost no matter what, then perhaps you will go for a queue-based messaging mechanism. If the requirement changes and suddenly there is some tolerance towards message losses, the architecture might change and we will recommend a REST API-based messaging instead. For this reason, it is extremely important to lay out the exact requirements, especially the non-functional ones, in the architecture document. This way, you make it clear what are the requirements that dictated the architecture and make sure everyone knows that. Now, note that this section is by no means a replacement for a design document created by a system analyst. It gives a high-level overview of the requirements and is mainly a talking point list, not a full-blown document. Therefore, do not describe all the nuances and intricacies of each requirement. A short, concise description will be enough. So, how is this section structured? Well, first are the functional requirements. Provide a list of the main functional requirements, usually no more than 5 requirements. Remember, use a bulleted list with no more than 3 lines for each requirement. For example, here is a partial requirements list that can appear in a document. Next comes the non-functional requirements. In contrast to the functional requirements, it's extremely important to be extremely accurate and specific in this list. The reason is that while functional requirements are well documented in other design documents, non-functional requirements are usually not included in any other document other than the architecture document. For this reason, make sure the non-functional requirements list, while short and concise, contains all the necessary details for the readers to fully grasp the requirements. Here is a sample list of a non-functional requirements. So, we have talked about the requirements section. Let's move on to the next one.